Well, I guess you can tell what the topics are for the league just by looking at the screen. But yeah, today's podcast is more or less kind of again about Blizzard Esports. We're happening to talk about Blizzard Esports over and over and over again. And I guess it's just because they continue to deliver when it's their time to deliver. Today, they played a game against Naptown United. A fairly big organization who is now in the league and also sponsors the NULS. Anyway, Naptown United versus Blizzard Esports. Tonic put the predictions. Okay, so we're starting to run polls every time a team meets each other and it's either streamed or brought out to the public for a show match. We did this with Satronix against Annihilation. We're going to talk about that later. But we're going to talk about this where, okay, show how many people voted for Blizzard Esports and Naptown United. Just look. Okay, you're going to see the predictions in a moment, but you're going to see at the bottom of your screen, it's starting to scroll up. I don't know why this thing does this, but you'll see it's 17-4 in favor of Blizzard Esports. Like, dang. At one point, it was 7-1, and it was a Brazil in favor of Blizzard Esports. Speaking of which, they did actually end up Braziling Naptown United in game number 2 of the series. But this was such a close series. Blizzard Esports were playing with 2 other subs. Then they got one of their starters back, and then one of the other subs had to go, and they had to put the other sub in. But it was a little bit chaotic for Blizzard Esports, but they still ended up coming with a 3 to win their first game 5 of actually Blizzard Esports' first game 5 since they were called Pro Advancing Hero Squad, and their main roster at the time that was like Plat, went on a game 5 against Pyro Esports back in March, where Blizzard Esports ended up winning that, and that was the spark of the event that they started to just start winning. Then they updated their roster, got picked up by Blizzard Esports, and here we are today. But I think Blizzard Esports, they should still be at the top of people's rankings. If you go in the Discord server, scroll all the way down to the bottom and go to the last category where it says GSCS podcast, and then go to the first announcement channel that says GSCS podcast team rankings. You'll see at the first ranking, Tonic has put Blizzard Esports at that number 4 spot, and put the team that they swept at that number 1 spot, I believe, or he might have NSYNC at that number 1 spot. But I want to talk about NSYNC real quick before we move on to Vision Esports, which is actually got picked up by the organization called Distinct Solo. But that's congratulations to them. But let's talk about NSYNC. Taysom, your team. Do you think that since all these other teams, even the new teams, are getting a lot of this more experience in the league, once NSYNC comes back after New Year's and starts getting their show matches up, do you think that they'll perform at the high level that they once did?
I think so. They were pulled out of nowhere 3 times in a row. Quite literally out of nowhere to do what? And to do what? To face, first of all, Assassination Esports. That way, and then they face Naptown, and then they face Naptown again. They literally, it was like their first time playing in the GSCS. Since when? Think about it. Since they were called the North American Hornets. Since they were called the Hornets. All the way back in June. Or July, rather. Anotita, I think that these are high-ranked players, and they can continue to perform at the high-ranked level.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, yeah, you do have a point right there, because these guys are like high level professionals, but oh my goodness, guys, this is a big one. Distinct Solo versus Team Annihilation. Vision Esports versus Team Annihilation. They end up facing each other after Team Annihilation versus Satronix North America. And Team Annihilation ends up losing this one 3-1 to Vision Esports, who I believe Tayson might have number 1 on his, or number 2 on his rankings. I think Vision Esports are like top 4 or top 3 on, I'm pretty sure, everyone's rankings. But we have to talk about Slaughter either tomorrow or the day after, because Slaughter is being ruthlessly kicked around in people's rankings, including mine and now, but I have some good reasons for it, and you can see it in the hot take section of the GSCS podcast category in the Discord server of the GSCS. But you guys don't have good explanation for it, but that's a different topic. Distinct Solo, Vision Esports. Taysom, you admitted that you think that you're really supporting this Distinct Solo team, but I'm gonna ask you, and I'm gonna ask for your explanation why. Do you think that this Distinct Solo team is here to stay?
Yeah, I think that they are. I really think that they are. Let me tell you why I think that they are. This Distinct Solo team is built.
Explain.
Cypher, his situation is being figured out.
Yeah.
Besides that, they have 2 very high-level players. And I think this is like their 3rd or 4th, maybe 2nd or 3rd scrimmage rather, in the league. And what is their record? Their record is like 1-1 or 2-1. I think it's 2-1. And my word, I think this Vision team is built the right way. I think they had an unfortunate outing against Blizzard Esports, but how does Blizzard Esports sweep Vision and then barely come out with a win against Naptown United? And to answer my question,
no, you shouldn't even be asking that question. Because Blizzard Esports, number 1, they're playing with 2 subs in that matchup. They have to get, and then the starter rushes back, and they were all not warmed up. And the first game they barely lost in an overtime with a lot of mistakes on both team side. Game 2, Blizzard Esports Brazil, Naptown United. Game 3, Blizzard Esports win again against Naptown United. And then game number 4, they have to switch out the other sub because he has to go because, you know, New Year's Eve rather, and whatnot. So they have to bring in their other sub that wasn't even warmed up. And they ended up not winning game number 4. They barely lost it. And then I'm not going to say destroyed. It was actually decently close up until maybe just before the half game mark. But Blizzard Esports in that game 5, they ended the series 3-2, and then that final score was 5-2 in that final game. But one of their players actually forfeit before the game once Blizzard Esports got their 5th goal. They just said, no, we're not going to deal with this. Respectable. They don't want to go deal with the loss, but still, you gotta play through the end. I think Naptown, they had a good game. Both Vision and Naptown had unfortunate outings against Blizzard Esports, but Blizzard Esports should be credited for their win. I don't think that they should be, these other teams should be given excuses. I think that they should be credited for their win. But let's not talk about Blizzard Esports anymore. Let's talk about Team Annihilation versus Satronix North American team. Team Satronix North American team. And oh boy, are the roster changes coming in like crazy. First of all, Alive Atoll was moved to the sub position. And James moved to the sub position. And then they play with a guy called Nick in their matchup against Annihilation. And Nick, Recoil, and Term, I don't know if they've ever played together before, but they had amazing chemistry in that matchup. That was absolutely incredible. Beautiful gameplay by Team Satronix North American team. They looked absolutely amazing. And for a Team Annihilation that people had in their top 5 rankings, we even did we were supposed to release a podcast on them today, but we had to redo some of the topics because there was a big audio mix-up. But my goodness, like we even talked about Team Annihilation even before this matchup against Satronix NA. Team Annihilation are going to be, we were saying that they can be in top 4 contention with Koala Bear coming from Exotic to being traded from Exotic to Annihilation. They're a top 4 contention team after not even being in contention for even top 8. They're now a top 4 contention team, and how 8 teams are fighting for that top 4 spot. Like, my goodness, you see how contested this league is now. And this is what we said in the podcast we were supposed to release, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But there was a lot of stuff going on between that. And even Taysom and Brovanik were even saying, that this Team Annihilation, Annihilation team has got that potential to possibly make top 2. And but Satronix, from what I said from them, I put them in my top 5 now. I put Annihilation at 6. I put Satronix at 5. I had a few hot takes that Satronix North America make top 4 with Nick on their team. Nick, Recoil, and Term looked phenomenal together. And this team isn't even at full strength yet. They don't even have their full chemistry yet. Imagine the damage that they can do to these other so-called top teams with this new roster. And I believe they're trying to scrimmage Blizzard Esports again tomorrow. And I'm also looking forward to a possible scrimmage between Annihilation and Blizzard Esports. Taysom, before we go, any words or any last thoughts?
I'm not gonna say any last thought. I mean, that series, oh my gosh, Team Annihilation were literally freestyling on. They were literally freestyling on Satronix, their North American team. Earlier in the day, Team Annihilation even went up against the EU team and they swept the EU team. But this North American team looking amazing, coming off the 3-0 sweep against Team Annihilation. But Team Annihilation, they were freestyling against this Satronix team, and Koala Bear was treated there yesterday. So this Team Annihilation does not even have their full chemistry yet, and neither does Satronix. So you see how dangerous these teams are. So even Naptown United, they had to play with the sub as well, and they even have a new teammate in Illusion that is going to be playing with them as on that starter role. But these teams are all not even at full strength yet, and they're all looking so scary. But that Satronix offensive pushes, they looked good. They could not sustain an offensive attack. They looked, by all criticism means, horrendous. Because that offense did not look good and did not hold up. But they were able to capitalize on some defensive mistakes that were made by Team Annihilation, and that's how they got their win. And I totally respect that, and I congratulate them on upsetting, in my book, Team Annihilation. Team Annihilation, you have to look out for these new teams, and right now you can go and check out some of my rankings that Brovanik posted in the GSCS podcast team rankings thing. But Brovanik's gonna update some of them in the morning, and hopefully we can do a few more podcasts, especially on Slaughter Esports, because Anotita, I have some things to talk to you about them.